FederalGhosts here to tell you once again why this build is broken. I'm going to call this the Orbital build. So we're starting out as the Cyborg, which unfortunately we didn't take any Cyborg traits, but what are you going to do? This build centers strangely around one rare helmet, the Space Helmet, which in addition to defy death, every time an orbital completes a full rotation, you trigger your on-dash effects. What does that mean? Well, there are a lot of traits that give you an on-dash effect. For instance, this trait speeds you up, this trait gives you a repeat attack, this trait gives you 5 crushing hits, and by themselves they may not be great, but once you start stacking them up, they get pretty cool. So, we have 2 spinning blades, which I'll show you in just a second. They spin around us, and with the helmet, every time they go around once, we get our on-dash effect. Just assume we constantly have our on-dash effect. In addition, these cause bleed, which allow us to get bleed on enemies, and then give them vulnerability, which makes them take 20% more damage. So always assume they have that. We do have Step of the Wind, which gives us a permanent 20% increased attack, movement, and orbital speed. We have 1 step ahead, which gives us double crit on repeat attacks. And as you can see, we have a pretty high critical hit chance. But it also gives us repeat attacks. And Aesthetic Marks, which give us crushing hit, which roll the top end of any damage roll. Because as you know, any weapon is going to have a minimum and maximum damage roll. We're just always going to roll at the top. And then Boozer, of course, to take any sake we have from a 5% melee critical hit chance buff to a 10%, and keep that permanent. So what weapon are we using? Well, we're using the Excalibur, and unfortunately we were unable to upgrade it to the true Excalibur to make it real silly, but it is what it is. Fortunately, while we were doing a good run, we got Eden's Touch. And I don't know if this was reworked recently or not, but primary attacks now inflict Judgment. And this is very similar to Doom, which is kind of like the dark version of this, and several others, which basically you stack it up 3 times and then boom, does a huge amount of radiant damage. The Clockwork Boots periodically trigger our on-dash effect. Not really necessary, but really fun. The Illusionary Cloak, we had the Beetle Armor for a little bit to deal increased damage, but the evades are just kind of fun and nice to play with. Our Accessory gives us 100% bonus damage for being 5+ good, and Phalanx gives us increased attack speed as well as some bonus companions. We could have very easily made this into a companion build, but just didn't happen to. Our companion that we choose is the Voodoo Doll, and because we have something that gives us increased companion stat, each one of these 4 that you can get gives us plus 0.625 attack speed for 25% overall attack speed. We've got a movement charm, we've got an increased orbital speed charm because we weren't getting that fast enough, I guess, a heart charm, and an increased 40% damage charm from being good. And as I said before, here are the orbitals that spin around. Every time we have one of those, it gives us our on-dash effect. So, let's see it in action. That's it for this video, and we'll see you next time.